The Station Nightclub had 4 exits the night of the Great White Concert. But the side exits had been blocked. Plywood and furniture. To stop people from sneaking in without paying the cover charge. When the Pyrotechnics shot 15-foot flames into polyurethane foam covering the walls, the building became an incinerator. 100 people tried to escape through a single doorway. Most of them died in a pile of bodies, within arm's reach of cold February air. February 20, 2003. West Warwick, Rhode Island. A Thursday night that would rewrite every fire code in America. But the story doesn't begin that night. It begins years earlier. With decisions made in boardrooms and inspection reports. With corner cutting and willful blindness. With a system designed to prevent exactly this kind of disaster, failing at every single level. The station began its life in 1946. A simple single-story wood frame structure, built when fire codes were suggestions rather than requirements. 4,484 square feet. 1-story, wood construction. By 2000, when Jeffrey and Michael Derderian purchased the property, the station was pulling in packed crowds for rock and metal shows. The layout was simple, a large main room with a stage at one end, a bar along the side, a sunroom addition that served as an overflow area, and those 4 exits. The main entrance, 32 inches wide, standard commercial door, opens outward into the parking lot. The stage exit, behind the performers, through a short hallway, into the kitchen, then outside. Most patrons had no idea this exit existed. The side exits. Both led directly outside. But by 2003 both had been blocked. The capacity question was complicated. Fire Marshal Dennis LaRocque had set various limits over the years. 258 people with tables and chairs in place. 404 people with the floor cleared for standing room only. The Derderians could legally pack in 404 people if they removed the furniture. On February 20, 2003, 462 people were inside. Jeffrey Derderian later explained why they blocked the exits. We had people sneaking in. They'd pay the cover charge, go outside to smoke, then let their friends in through the side doors without paying. We were losing money. So they sealed exits. To prevent lost revenue. In late 1999, neighbors began complaining about noise from the station. The bands were loud, the bass rattled windows. The Derderians needed a solution. Professional acoustic treatment would have cost tens of thousands of dollars. Fire-rated materials, professional installation, proper ventilation. The Derderians had a cheaper idea. Polyurethane foam. The same material used in furniture cushions, mattresses, packaging materials. It's lightweight, cheap, easy to install, and it absorbs sound. There's just one problem. Polyurethane foam is one of the most flammable materials ever mass-produced. The chemistry is straightforward. Polyurethane is a petroleum-based polymer. When exposed to high heat, it doesn't just burn. It undergoes rapid thermal decomposition. The solid foam liquefies, releasing flammable gases that ignite, creating a flash fire. Meanwhile, as it burns, polyurethane releases hydrogen cyanide, a poison that prevents cells from using oxygen. Carbon monoxide, which binds to hemoglobin, and dozens of other toxic compounds. The smoke from burning polyurethane isn't just smoke. It's a chemical weapon. Fire safety experts have known this for decades. That's why building codes require flame-resistant materials in public spaces. But those materials cost money. The Derderians spent approximately $5,000 on polyurethane foam from American Foam Corporation. The owner, Barry Warner, later testified he offered to treat the foam with fire-retardant chemicals. The treatment would have cost an additional $1,000. The Durdarians declined. Warner testified he specifically discussed fire safety with the Durdarians, offered the fire retardant treatment, explained that untreated foam was highly flammable. The Durdarians' response: "We'll take our chances." The installation took 2 days. The foam was glued directly to the walls and ceiling around the stage. No air gap, no protective barrier. Just foam adhesive and wood. The exact location where Pyrotechnics would later be fired. Fire Marshal Dennis LaRocque had been with the West Warwick Fire Department for 23 years. His job was to inspect commercial properties, enforce fire codes, keep people safe. Between 2000 and 2003, LaRocque conducted multiple inspections of the station. His reports tell the story of systematic failure. October 2000. First inspection after the Durdarians purchased the property. LaRocque notes: capacity posted, exit signs functional, extinguishers present. No mention of the foam covering the walls. No mention of blocked exits. No test of the sprinkler system. January 2003. Final inspection. 6 weeks before the fire. The foam is everywhere. Black, egg crate pattern, covering walls from floor to ceiling around the stage. LaRocque's report. Routine inspection. No violations noted. In his deposition, LaRocque explained his inspection process. "I would walk through the building, check that exit signs were illuminated, verify fire extinguishers were present, look at the posted capacity. Then I'd sign off." "What about the foam?" "I saw the foam. I thought it was decorative. I didn't know it was flammable." "Did you ask what it was?" "No." "Did you check if it was fire rated?" "No." "Did you test the sprinkler system?" "No. I observed sprinkler heads. I assumed the system was active." "Did you check if the side exits were accessible?" "I checked the main entrance. I didn't specifically check the side doors." "Did you count the number of people in the building during events?" "No. I conducted inspections during setup times, before crowds arrived." Dennis LaRocque could have prevented the disaster with basic questions. He never asked. The station's sprinkler system had been installed in 1996 by the previous owner. Automatic sprinklers throughout the building, connected to the municipal water supply, designed to activate automatically when temperatures reached unsafe levels. The system would have stopped the fire in its early stages. NIST later confirmed this through computer simulations and physical testing. A properly functioning sprinkler system would have controlled the fire. Total casualties would have been 0. It was never turned on. When the Durdarians purchased the property in 2000, they inherited a fully functional fire suppression system. But the main valve, located in a utility closet, was in the closed position. The previous owner had shut it during the ownership transfer. Standard procedure to prevent water damage during property changes. The new owner is supposed to reopen it immediately. The Durdarians never opened it. Jeffrey Durdarian later testified, "I didn't know the valve existed. I saw sprinkler heads throughout the building. I assumed the system was active." But the building inspection reports contradict this. The town building inspector noted, "Sprinkler system valve is in closed position. Owner should verify system is operational." The insurance company's inspection stated, "Confirm sprinkler system is active before policy activation." For 3 years the sprinkler system sat ready. Every component functional, except the one valve that would allow water to flow. NIST conducted full-scale testing. They built a mock-up of the station's stage area, installed the same type of polyurethane foam, set it on fire. With sprinklers active according to NFPA 13 standards, the sprinklers controlled the fire completely. 100 people died. Because nobody turned a valve. Great White had been touring since the 1980s. Classic heavy metal, power ballads, arena rock. By 2003 they were playing smaller venues. Nightclubs instead of arenas. Daniel Bichel, aged 26, was the tour manager. His job was to coordinate logistics, book venues, manage equipment, handle technical setup, including pyrotechnics. Great White's stage show featured pyrotechnics, gerbs, cylindrical devices that shoot sparks 15 feet into the air for 15 seconds. The band considered them essential to their performance. Bichel had been using pyrotechnics for years. He knew the proper procedures. Obtain permits from local fire marshals. Verify adequate clearance from flammable materials. Ensure venue approval. Check for sprinkler systems. At most venues he followed these procedures. At the station, he followed none of them. Bichel had used pyrotechnics at the station during a previous show in 2002. Without permits, without clearance, without approval. And nothing had gone wrong. The show was successful. So when the band returned in 2003, Bichel simply did the same thing. He set up 4 gerbs. 2 at 45-degree angles. 2 pointing straight up. Positioned near the foam-covered walls. Aimed toward the foam-covered ceiling. Standard pyrotechnic safety protocols require proper clearance from any flammable material. The gerbs were positioned directly adjacent to some of the most flammable material available. Did he measure the distance? No. Did he check if the foam was flammable? No. Did he ask the club owners for permission? Not explicitly. Did he inform the fire marshal? No. Did he obtain a pyrotechnic permit? No. The band members later testified they assumed Bichel had handled all necessary approvals. They'd used pyro for years. Never had problems. They trusted their tour manager. Lead singer Jack Russell said he had no idea Bichel hadn't gotten permits. But Russell didn't ask. The band didn't verify. They trusted. February 20, 2003. Thursday night. The doors opened at 8 p.m. The club started filling immediately. By 10 p.m. the station was packed. The main room was shoulder to shoulder. The sunroom overflow area was full. A doorman with a clicker counted patrons entering. He stopped counting after approximately 260 paying customers. But people kept coming. The Durdarians had told the door staff to use judgment. If the crowd seemed manageable, keep letting people in. Band members, crew, staff, friends with comp tickets, press. The Providence Journal later documented 462 people inside. 58 more than the maximum legal capacity. Among the crowd were people who would become part of history. Gina Russo, 33 years old, came with her fiancé Freddie Chrysostomy. They'd been together for years. Fred loved Great White, owned all their albums. This show was his idea. Linda and Ed Fisher. Married couple. Standing toward the back of the main room. Near the stage exit that most people didn't know existed. Tracy King. Celebrating with friends. Standing in the sunroom area. Mike Gonsalves. Radio DJ. Master of ceremonies for the show. Working for WHJY. Ty Longley. Guitarist for Great White. On stage preparing for the performance. Brian Butler. Cameraman for WPRI television. Filming a segment on nightclub safety. He had no idea his footage would document one of America's deadliest fires. At 11:07 p.m., Great White took the stage. The crowd cheered, packed tight, shoulder to shoulder. No room to move. 11:07 p.m. The band launched into Desert Moon, their opening song. The crowd sang along, pressed toward the stage. At the side of the stage, Daniel Bichel stood with the pyrotechnic control. A small electrical device. 4 buttons, one for each gerb. He'd done this dozens of times. 30 seconds into the song, Bichel pressed the buttons. The gerbs ignited. 4 fountains of white-hot sparks shot upward. 15 feet high. Spectacular. The crowd cheered. The sparks cascaded down, onto the stage, and onto the polyurethane foam covering the walls. The foam ignited instantly. Brian Butler's camera captured everything. His video would become the most important piece of evidence in the investigation. The footage shows the sparks hitting the foam. Small flames appear, spreading up the wall. The crowd is still cheering. Some people point at the flames, laughing, thinking it's part of the show. 9 seconds after ignition, flames are visible on the wall above the stage. 15 seconds, the flames have spread across the stage area. 20 seconds, thick black smoke begins filling the room. Someone in the crowd yells, "This is not good." Drummer Michael Lardy stops playing, points at the fire. The music stops. Jack Russell, the lead singer, leans into the microphone. "Wow, that's not good." 30 seconds after ignition, people start moving toward the exits. 41 seconds. The fire alarm activates. Sound and strobe lights. But by now everyone already knows there's a fire. The chemistry of the disaster was predictable. Polyurethane foam exposed to 3,000-degree pyrotechnics sparks ignites almost instantaneously. Once ignited, it burns at over 1,000 degrees, releasing flammable gases that ignite, creating a flash fire that spreads impossibly fast. NIST later measured the flame spread. The fire consumed the stage area and spread to the ceiling above the dance floor within 90 seconds. Smoke was visible at the main entrance doorway in little more than 1 minute. Flames broke through the roof in less than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, the smoke was even deadlier than the flames. Polyurethane combustion produces hydrogen cyanide, carbon monoxide, and thick black smoke that blocks all visibility within seconds. The smoke is optically dense. Breathing it causes immediate damage. The cyanide blocks cellular respiration. Even if people escape the building, the cyanide in their system continues working, shutting down their cells. NIST's computer simulations showed that conditions around the dance floor, sunroom, and main room became unsurvivable within approximately 90 seconds. Temperatures, heat flux, and combustion gas concentrations all exceeded accepted survivability limits. Anyone remaining in those areas after 90 seconds, even close to the floor, would suffer severe incapacitation or death. 90 seconds. That's how long people had to escape. The main entrance. 32 inches wide. The only exit most people knew about. Approximately 300 people tried to reach it simultaneously. The mathematics were impossible. A doorway 32 inches wide can accommodate approximately 2 people side by side. Under calm conditions with orderly exit, the door could handle perhaps 60 people per minute. 300 people reached the door in less than 1 minute. The crush began immediately. Bodies compressed against the doorframe. People at the front couldn't move forward, couldn't move backward. People behind them kept pushing, running from the smoke and flames, unable to see the bottleneck ahead. The pileup began. People at the front started falling, tripping over the threshold, falling onto people who'd fallen before them, creating a pile. Those behind, still running from the flames, couldn't see. They ran into the pile, fell on top, added to the mass. The pressure continued building. Fire investigators later calculated the forces involved. The crowd density at the doorway exceeded 7 people per square meter. The pressure created a compressive force exceeding 500 pounds per square inch. The human rib cage can withstand approximately 350 pounds per square inch before fracturing. People at the bottom of the pile were being crushed to death. Ribs breaking, lungs collapsing, unable to breathe even before the smoke reached them. Those on top were being burned. The fire had reached the entrance area. Flames on the ceiling above them. Radiant heat from above. People's hair caught fire. Their clothes ignited. But they couldn't move. The pile extended from inside the doorway into the parking lot. Bodies stacked multiple layers deep. Arms and legs interlocked. Some people were face down, suffocating under the weight. Others were face up, burning from the radiant heat above. Gina Russo was in that pile. She later described it. I could see outside. I could see the parking lot. I could reach my hand into cold air. But I couldn't move. People were on top of me, crushing me. I felt my ribs crack. My hair was on fire. I could smell it burning. I thought, this is how I die. So close to safety. People outside started pulling bodies from the pile. Bystanders, off-duty police officers, random people who'd escaped. They grabbed arms, legs, whatever they could reach, and pulled. They pulled Gina Russo out. Her clothes were burning. 3rd and 4th degree burns covered 40% of her body. Her left ear was gone. The burns on her scalp went to the bone. But she was alive. Freddie Chrysostomy, her fiancé, was pulled out later. Dead. He'd been right behind her, pushing her toward the door. His hand slipped from her back. She never saw him again. Linda Fisher had noticed the stage exit during previous visits to the station. She'd seen band members using a door behind the drums. Made a mental note. Just in case. When the fire started, Linda grabbed her husband Ed. Pulled him away from the crowd rushing to the main entrance. She later recalled. Everyone was running to the front door. I saw the crowd. I knew we'd die if we went that way. I pulled Ed toward the stage. The band was still there. I screamed. Where's the exit? Someone pointed. Behind the drums. They ran through the backstage area. Through a short hallway. Into the kitchen. Out the back door. Into the parking lot. Safe. They were among approximately 50 people who escaped through the stage exit. But there was a problem with this exit too. Bouncers, security staff, initially blocked people from using the stage door, telling them it was for the band only. Several witnesses later testified that security prevented them from using this exit. Precious seconds were lost arguing with bouncers. Seconds that cost lives. Eventually, as the fire worsened, security gave up and people poured through. The stage exit had no signage. No illuminated exit sign. No indication it was an emergency exit. It was just a door the band used. Fire codes require all emergency exits to be clearly marked. Illuminated signs visible from anywhere in the building. If that exit had been properly marked, if security hadn't initially blocked it, perhaps dozens more would have survived. The left side exit, sealed with plywood and soundproofing material, was located near where the fire started. If it had been accessible, people near the stage could have escaped in seconds. Opened the door, stepped outside. Direct access to safety. Instead, they ran toward the main entrance. Through the smoke, through the flames. Many died in the attempt. The right side exit, in the sunroom area, was hidden behind black curtains and blocked by furniture. Approximately 100 people were in the sunroom when the fire started, furthest from the flames. Most of them had time to escape, if they'd known the exit was there. Several people discovered the exit by accident, felt along the walls through the smoke, found the curtain, pulled it aside, saw the door, pushed through the furniture, escaped. Tracy King was in the sunroom. She ran toward the main entrance instead. Through the main room, toward the fire. She collapsed from smoke inhalation. Never made it out. Her body was found feet from where the sunroom exit had been blocked. Post-fire analysis by NIST showed that if both side exits had been accessible and properly marked, the entire building could have been evacuated in less than 90 seconds. Well before conditions became unsurvivable. The first 911 call came in before 11:09 p.m., less than 40 seconds after ignition. There's a fire at the Station Nightclub. People are trapped. West Warwick Fire Department dispatched all available units. Engine companies, tower ladder truck, rescue units, battalion chief. Mutual aid from surrounding towns. Off-duty West Warwick police officers at the scene also reported the fire about 1 minute after it started. Lieutenant John Chartier arrived at 11:09 p.m., 2 minutes after ignition. What he found would haunt him forever. The building was fully involved. Flames shooting through the roof. Thick black smoke. And a massive pile of bodies blocking the main entrance. Some still moving. Most still. Chartier immediately called for additional alarms. Started pulling bodies from the pile. He later testified. I grabbed the first person I could reach. Started pulling. Started CPR. But her chest wouldn't rise. Her ribs were completely shattered. She'd been crushed to death. I moved to the next person. Same thing. I kept pulling, hoping to find someone alive. But they were all dead. Every single person in that pile was already dead. Other firefighters arrived. Started pulling bodies. Setting up triage areas. Calling for ambulances. More ambulances. Every ambulance in Rhode Island. But there was no triage. No injured people waiting for treatment. Just bodies. And people who'd escaped with catastrophic burns. The people who escaped were either uninjured or critically burned. Nothing in between. Either you got out in the first 90 seconds, or you died. Firefighters made attempts to enter the building, searching for survivors. But the structure was collapsing. The heat was extreme. The smoke impenetrable. They found more bodies inside. Piled near the walls. Near the bathrooms. People who'd become disoriented in the smoke. Run the wrong direction. Died feet from exits they couldn't see. The fire was extinguished by 11:16 p.m., 9 minutes after ignition. But the building was a total loss. A collapsed smoking ruin. And the worst was yet to come. The body count. Dawn. February 21st. The medical examiner's office set up a temporary morgue in the parking lot. White tents, body bags, tags. The recovery team entered the ruins. Bodies were everywhere. Piled near exits. Sprawled across the collapsed floor. Crushed under roof sections. Burned beyond recognition. The pile at the front door was the worst. Bodies interlocked. Arms wrapped around each other. Some were clearly trying to protect others. Husbands shielding wives. Friends holding each other. Each body was photographed, tagged, documented. Removed to the temporary morgue. The process took 3 days. The final count. 96 dead at the scene. 4 more would die in hospitals over the following weeks and months. 1 survivor, severely burned, would die 70 days later. Total. 100. The youngest victim. 18 years old. The oldest. 62. Identification was difficult. Many bodies were burned beyond visual recognition. Dental records were required. DNA testing. Personal effects. Among the dead, Ty Longley, guitarist for Great White. Mike Gunsalves, the radio DJ who'd been master of ceremonies. 4 employees of the station. Families waited at hospitals. At police stations. At the temporary morgue. Hoping their loved ones were among the injured. In hospitals. Unconscious but alive. As the hours passed, hope faded. The hospitals reported their numbers. Burn units across New England were filled. Rhode Island Hospital, Massachusetts General, Brigham and Women's, Shriners Hospital for Children. But no new survivors. Everyone who escaped was already accounted for. Everyone else was dead. The funerals began. Gina Russo was pulled from the pile of bodies unconscious. Smoke inhalation. 3rd and 4th degree burns over 40% of her body. Her left ear was gone. The burns on her head went to the skull, making it impossible for hair to ever grow there again. She was transported to Shriners Hospital for Children in Boston. Put into a medically induced coma. The doctors told her family to prepare for the worst. Her organs were shutting down. She spent 11 weeks in a coma. Her 9-year-old son Alex went to the hospital chapel. Prayed alone. Came out smiling. Told his aunt that his mom was going to be fine. And she was. Gina Russo survived. Physically. 6 more weeks in rehabilitation. Then home. Then years of surgeries. Over 50 operations and skin graft procedures. Physical therapy. Pain management. The psychological damage was worse. She couldn't close her eyes without seeing the pile. Feeling the crush. Hearing the screams. Smelling the burning hair. She attended Freddie's funeral in a wheelchair. Bandages covering her burns. Unable to speak from intubation damage. She later said, "I lived and Freddie died. We were holding hands. The only difference was I started moving seconds earlier." Seconds. That's the difference between life and death. How do you wake up every day knowing you lived because you moved faster than the person you loved? Other survivors faced similar struggles. Linda Fisher. Burns over 30% of her body. Reconstructed hands that struggle to grip objects. Scars that make strangers stare. Chronic itching so severe it makes her cry. Many survivors couldn't work. Couldn't function. Couldn't be in crowds. The psychological damage was permanent. Some developed what psychologists call survivor's guilt. Why did I live when others died? What makes me special? Why was I spared? There are no good answers to those questions. The criminal investigation began immediately. Rhode Island Attorney General Patrick Lynch convened a grand jury. On December 9, 2003, the grand jury announced indictments. Daniel Bichel, tour manager. 200 counts of involuntary manslaughter. 2 counts for each of the 100 victims. 1 count for criminal negligence. 1 count for misdemeanor manslaughter. Jeffrey and Michael Derderian, club owners. 200 counts each of involuntary manslaughter. Fire Marshal Dennis LaRocque was not charged. Rhode Island law prevented charges against fire marshals without proof of bad faith. Despite his obvious negligence. Despite his failure to inspect properly. Despite 100 deaths that resulted from his incompetence. He faced no criminal liability. Daniel Bishal's trial was scheduled for May 1, 2006. But on February 7, 2006, against his lawyer's advice, Bishal pleaded guilty to 100 counts of involuntary manslaughter. He later said he wanted to bring peace. Wanted it to be over. Wanted to take responsibility. His sentencing hearing in May 2006 was emotional. 2 days of testimony from victims' families. Parents who would never see their children graduate. Grandparents who would never hold grandchildren. Spouses describing grief so powerful they could not get out of bed. Bishal stood and spoke. I don't know that I'll ever forgive myself for what happened that night. So I can't expect anybody else to. I can only pray that they understand that I would do anything to undo what happened that night and give them back their loved ones. Prosecutors asked for the maximum sentence under the plea agreement. 10 years. Gina Russo addressed the court. Daniel Bishal made a terrible mistake. He didn't intend to kill anyone. He owned his mistake. He pleaded guilty. He took responsibility. I can forgive someone who takes responsibility. Superior Court Judge Francis Darrigan sentenced Bishal to 15 years. With 4 years to serve. 11 years suspended. 3 years probation. Bishal was released in March 2008. After serving 3 years and 7 months. Many survivors felt this was too lenient. Others felt it was appropriate for someone who showed genuine remorse. The Derderian brothers faced trial next. Their case revealed the full extent of their negligence. The untreated foam. Offered fire retardant treatment. Declined to save money. The blocked exits. Employees testified they'd raised safety concerns. The Derderians told them not to worry. The inactive sprinklers. Building maintenance records showed they'd been informed multiple times. They never activated the system. The overcrowding. Doormen testified they were told to keep letting people in as long as physically possible. In September 2006, both brothers pleaded no contest. Avoiding trial. Michael Derderian received 15 years. With 4 to serve. He was released in 2009 after serving approximately 3 years. Jeffrey Derderian received 10 years suspended. 3 years probation. 500 hours of community service. He served no prison time. The sentencing disparity enraged survivors. Bishal, who made a split-second decision, served nearly as long as Michael Derderian. Jeffrey Derderian, who made conscious choices over years to prioritize profit over safety, served no prison time at all. And Fire Marshal LaRoque, the government official responsible for fire safety, who failed at every level, who could have prevented every death with basic due diligence, faced no criminal consequences. He was demoted, eventually resigned, but never faced a jury. Never faced criminal accountability. Survivors called this the greatest injustice. The civil lawsuits were more comprehensive. Survivors and families filed against everyone connected to the disaster. The Derderians, Great White, Daniel Bishal, American Foam Corporation, the foam manufacturer Sealed Air, the town of West Warwick, the state of Rhode Island, WPRI television station, Clear Channel Broadcasting, Anheuser-Busch, equipment suppliers, promoters. Eventually, over 60 defendants. The settlements came in stages. The Derderians' insurance, $813,000. The state of Rhode Island and town of West Warwick combined, $10 million. American Foam Corporation, $6.3 million. Sealed Air Corporation, $25 million. WPRI Television and their parent company, $30 million. For the cameraman's footage that was broadcast nationally. Clear Channel Broadcasting, $22 million. For promoting the show. Jack Russell's tour group, $1 million. The maximum under their insurance policy. Other defendants contributed smaller amounts. The total settlement exceeded $176 million. The largest fire-related settlement in American history. The money was distributed according to a complex formula developed by Duke University law professor Francis McGovern. Points based on age, education, income, medical expenses, severity of injuries. Those with the worst injuries received the largest payouts. Some survivors with catastrophic burns received over $1 million. After attorney fees and medical reimbursements. But money doesn't resurrect the dead. Doesn't heal the scars. Doesn't erase the nightmares. Gina Russo used her settlement for medical bills, reconstructive surgeries, therapy. But no amount of money brings Freddie back. Rhode Island passed sweeping fire safety legislation in 2003. The Station Nightclub Fire Safety Act. Mandatory sprinkler systems in all nightclubs and assembly occupancies, regardless of age or size. No grandfathering. Annual third-party inspections with criminal penalties for violations. All soundproofing and decorative materials must be fire-rated. Strict capacity enforcement with mandatory counts. Criminal liability for venue owners who block exits or exceed capacity. Pyrotechnic displays require permits, fire marshal approval, adequate clearance from combustible materials. Other states followed: Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, California. All passed similar legislation. The National Fire Protection Association updated NFPA 101. The Life Safety Code added specific requirements based on NIST recommendations. Sprinklers required in Group A2 occupancies with 100 or more occupants. Previously the threshold was 300. Interior finish materials must meet strict flame spread requirements. Pyrotechnic use heavily regulated in assembly occupancies. But laws passed in 2003 couldn't save the 100 people who died in 2003. The regulations came too late. The site of the station remained vacant for years. The Durdarians sold the property. The ruins were demolished. An empty lot remained. Survivors and families pushed for a permanent memorial. A place to remember. To grieve. To ensure the victims were never forgotten. The Station Fire Memorial Foundation was established. Led by Gina Russo and other survivors. They raised funds. Negotiated with property owners. Purchased the land. Designed a memorial. It took 14 years. The memorial opened in May 2017. 100 granite markers. Each shaped like a stage amplifier. Each bearing a victim's name and etched image. Arranged around circular granite benches. Walking paths. Landscaping. A granite timeline wall chronicling the events. The central area bears a simple inscription. To those who didn't make it out. And for those who did. On the anniversary each year, February 20th, survivors and families gather. Read the names aloud. Light candles. Share memories. Gina Russo attends every year. Stands at Freddie's marker. Touches his name. Talks to him. She tells him about her life. Her advocacy work. The fire safety laws that changed. The people she's helped. The memorial they built. The memorial is peaceful, quiet, a place of reflection. But it's also a warning. 100 names. 100 people who died because of negligence. February 20th, 2003. 11:07 p.m. Daniel Bichel pressed the button. The pyrotechnics fired. The foam ignited. 100 people died in 9 minutes. But the responsibility extends far beyond those 9 minutes. The Durderians spent 3 years running an unsafe venue, using untreated flammable foam to save $1,000, blocking exits to prevent lost revenue, never activating sprinklers that would have saved 100 lives. Fire Marshal LaRock spent 3 years conducting inadequate inspections, never testing sprinklers, never checking exits, never asking basic questions about fire safety. Daniel Bichel used pyrotechnics without proper procedures, never verified clearances, never obtained permits, assumed everything was fine because nothing had gone wrong before. Everyone knew, or should have known. The foam would burn. The exits were blocked. The sprinklers were off. The capacity was exceeded. They knew. The Station Nightclub Fire was completely preventable. Every single death was avoidable. With fire-rated materials, the fire wouldn't have spread. With active sprinklers, NIST proved the fire would have been controlled. With accessible exits, everyone could have escaped in 90 seconds. With proper inspections, the violations would have been caught. With enforcement, the club would have been shut down. 0 people should have died. Instead, 100 people burned. The memorial stands. 100 names carved in stone. Gina Russo still attends every anniversary. Still stands at Freddie's marker. Still carries the weight of survival. She's dedicated her life to fire safety advocacy. Speaking at schools, businesses, government hearings. Showing her scars. Telling her story. So others might be spared. She helped build the memorial. Helped change the laws. Helped survivors heal. But she still asks the question that has no answer. Why did I live when Freddie died? The fire lasted 9 minutes. The investigation lasted years. The trials brought some justice. The settlements brought some money. But justice and money don't resurrect the dead. They knew the foam would burn. They knew the exits were blocked. They knew the sprinklers were off. They knew. And 100 people died anyway.